Edinburgh Real is sponsored by Total Health, one of the UK's leading wellbeing organisations committed to helping individuals, athletes and businesses build health and performance.
This is Edinburgh Real, a show dedicated to delivering compelling conversations with fascinating people. I'm Elliot Reeves and I'm joined by my co-host Craig Alley, who is the founder of our sponsor Total Health. Today's guest is Chris Marr. Chris is director and founder of the Content Marketing Academy, the UK's largest membership organisation of its type. You're the host of the Content Marketing Academy podcast, and you also run the annual TCMA conference. In addition, you're a blogger, a content marketer, a speaker, a coach, as well as a leading authority within your niche, and your pioneering work has helped grow a myriad of organisations. Chris, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Edinburgh Real.
Thanks very much. It's really good to be here. Love it. Loving the setup. It's great. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Genuinely, thank you for coming. It's I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah,
hopefully
me too.
try and glean some tips from you.
No, I'm excited to be here as well. I really am looking forward to getting stuck in. Absolutely.
Awesome. Perfect. So it would be great if we could start for a bit of context with you telling us a bit about your background, your upbringing, what you were like when you were young and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, what was like when I was young? That's a hard one. I don't think I can remember anything past or younger than the age of 8 or something like, but I'm 34 years old. My name's Chris Marr. I live in Leven just now. I grew up in Inverkeithing. I've kind of been around Fife, so I grew up in Inverkeithing. I worked in St Andrews at the University of St Andrews there. And I moved to Leven in the last sort of 5 years or so I've kind of been around a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I grew up in Inverkeithing, I was there, I went to school there, I grew up there with my brothers. So if we kind of like rewind the clock a little bit, just to kind of like highlight the childhood a little bit, fairly normal, I guess, nothing exciting happening there. I guess the key things in my life that happened were my parents separated when I was about 8 years old. Okay. So like there was this joining of forces with our step family, which was me and my brother, 2 boys, and my mum, and our new family, which was Stuart, my stepdad, and his 2 sons. So there was like 4 boys in the house. So, it was a lot of like quibble, fighting, and a lot of that stuff going on, lots of football and things like that. There was only like a year between us all as well. So we're all kind of like similar ages. So it was kind of like I said, a joining of forces. So it went really, really well. I mean, I remember really good things from my childhood just growing up. So it was great. It was great fun. So that's kind of like one of the big moments, I guess. And then, you know what it's like when you go to high school and things like that. And I think there was a period in time where I struggled to like make friends for whatever reason. I don't know why. Okay. And then like 4th year, like when you're 15, 16, 17, growing up in that period in time, I remember getting grounded for like a whole summer. Like a whole 6 weeks, which is like a lifetime when you're at high school. Yeah. And that was when I learned to play guitar, right? Okay. I've played guitar ever since I was like 15 years old. So it was kind of like there was almost like it was just a bit lucky the way that it worked out. So I kind of got grounded for a whole summer, learned how to play guitar, and then I wasted like 2 years at school, right? I didn't get any hires, but I stayed in 5th and 6th year. I don't know why anybody let me stay at school to do that. And then I went on to college, so I kind of wasted 2 years of my life. Went to college, did a hospitality management diploma, went to work at the University of St Andrews, and that was my career. For 10 years, I stayed at the University of St Andrews, just worked my way up the ladder there into management, into leadership and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's like key points in that whole time where, like I know that you guys are into this as well, into personal development and stuff like that. And I think it was like mid-20s, 24, 25, when I started to take my job just a little bit more seriously, and I started to read a lot and write a lot and try to get some of my own ideas and things like that. So that kind of like shaped the sort of next 10 years, like to get us up to date really. Yeah. And everything changed after that point. So growing up, I learned a lot from like having the 2 families come together. You've got to learn a lot, like this whole sharing thing. And my parents did a really clever thing. When we moved in together, there was only the 3 bedrooms. So instead of me sharing with my little brother, I shared with one of my stepbrothers, and my other brother shared with the other stepbrother, right? Okay. So that was quite a smart move to do that and really sort of bring our families together. Yeah. So I think that was really, really clever, and it really worked. And ever since then, it's just been great. Growing up, having like a sort of extended family, and like I said, I went through high school not really making friends, but that kind of all changed for me as I started to work. Massive network of friends now, and now working with some of the best people I've ever met. So it's been a whirlwind over the last sort of 15 years of just starting to work and doing that sort of added value piece, getting a job and serving people, doing whatever you do. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of like how the whole thing happened, really. And then I think a big part of my story is, and I know this is like Edinburgh Real, so you kind of want to get into the, I think the brief was, we're not like other interviews, we want to get in, we want to go deep.
Yeah.
We want to go long,
Absolutely,
and we
deep
want to
and
go
raw.
deep. And I was like, what kind of interview is this? So like 2007, my younger brother Colin, my blood brother, he died. He got killed in a sort of like there was an incident in his home with his fiancée, which is still like an ongoing saga. So it's like 10 years ago. So I was like 25 when this all happened, and that kind of like, that will change your path in any sort of like situation. But for me, it changed me, and a lot of people might say different things about this, but it got me more focused on a lot of things. Trying to do, and I think it took me like 3-4 years maybe just to figure all that out. So like in 2009, I decided that I wanted to like go to university, get a degree and all that kind of stuff, thinking that I needed to get all these things to kind of advance my career. And I just kind of like doubled down on like focusing and doing better and improving myself. And that's kind of like how I dealt with that whole thing. I still do that now. So I work harder or try to work as hard as I can, work harder every day to try and, I don't know what it is, but to try and just to try and live a good life, or to try and create value for other people, I guess, is the key thing. But that was a kind of like a key change in my life, was like 2007. It always will be like that way. So that's a big part of how I kind of shaped it. A lot of people would maybe, I don't know, like, you know, go into maybe depression or try and deal with it in that sort of way. But I kind of just went the other way, which was just to work harder and to do more. I don't know why, and I feel grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. So, yeah. That's kind of like how my childhood's kind of wrapped up. And then obviously having all those brothers, they all go work in different places, and there's like this whole separation of the family. And then hopefully at some point it all comes back together when you have kids and get married and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So when you say you got into personal development side of things and stuff, was there any particular practices you took on board, or any particular books that you felt really helped?
So I remember like when I left college and went to work, I went to work for the University of St Andrews, and they've got a great program. Like you're doing something every year. Every year you're on a training course, you're doing some sort of development. So they've got like a packet full of certificates of all the things that I did, which is one of the great things about working for the uni. Maybe talk about that later on, but that was one of the best things we had. And like I said, it was about in my mid-20s. The first personal development experience I ever had, that I ever remember, was a Jack Black conference that I went to when I was 14. My dad took me to this conference for kids, basically. It was me and my younger brother at the time, and it was the first kind of experience I had. And people probably watching all know who Jack Black is, and it was a Mind Store event, right? So that was my first experience there, but like I said, it took me like 10 years to really take that stuff seriously. But I remember sitting, when I started to take this seriously, reading Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard, right? So I was on my coffee break or whatever, and I was just like, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I need to be doing to like advance my career, to get better at what I'm doing. So I just started reading books, loads and loads of books, and that bridged me straight in from leadership and communications into marketing. And ever since then, I've just read books all the time. And like one of my favourite philosophers, we were talking about this in this before we sort of went live, and is Jim Rohn, right? And one of his pieces of advice is to miss a meal if you have to, but never miss a book. So it's kind of like that philosophy, was to read something every day or to learn something new
Great
every
leaders
day.
or readers.
Exactly, yeah. So that was a big part. So books, massive. I've got like a huge bookcase in the office full of tons of books. I haven't read them all, but they're there, and they're good for reference. And so reading books, I mean, there's so many books. You go on and on with the books. But I remember just that there was a trigger point, I think, at some point where I was just learning about leadership or something at the time. That Start With Why, I think that's 2009. Those are kind of like key books for me, especially in the situation I was in at work. Because 2009 was the time where I went to start studying university part-time to do my business degree. And I kind of thought, I need to do something new. I need to advance my career. I need a degree to go to this next step. Turns out though that I didn't need a degree, because as soon as I left my job in 2011, I realised I didn't want to go work for anyone else ever again. So there was like a key window of time, like between 2009 and 2011. This window, this 2-year window, where I started to really sort of like think about my career going forward. Went to university part-time. The great thing about working at the University of St Andrews is you can go to university for really cheap, right? It's a massive discount on teaching. And what I did was I went to the evening degree programme and also went into the daytime programme, which meant I could do an honours degree if I wanted to.
Okay.
So what happened was, fast forward the clock a little bit, December 2010, read a book called Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk, right? A lot of people have heard of that book. That was the catalyst for me writing my first blog article. I was like, what's this blogging thing all about? Websites, WordPress, Blogger, all of that stuff. Decided to write a blog article. My first ever blog article was a bucket list, all the things I wanted to do, which was really cool going back to look at. So that was like December 2010. And Gary Vaynerchuk was like, sort of, the things I took away from that book were like, really get your ideas out there, your philosophies out there, share what you're learning, help as many people as you can, and get your own personality out there. And I said to myself at that point, I never want to write another CV ever again, right? And the whole idea was that if someone wanted to hire me, they'd hire me for me, not because I sent a whole bunch of CVs out to these other places for a job. They'd read the blog and they would want to hire me or whatever. I didn't know that I was eventually going to start my own business, but what happened was that I got my first contract because of the blog, right? I got my first five-figure contract from the blog, which was great. And I was still a student at the time, which was really cool as well. So the blogging, the reading, all of that kind of came together when an opportunity came up to leave my job in 2011. Left the job. That's when I realised I didn't want to go work for anyone else ever again. Realised that potentially I was going to university for all the wrong reasons, but I had started, so I was going to finish. And I used university as an opportunity to learn more about myself and about marketing and business and all of that kind of good stuff as well. And some of my favourite subjects were entrepreneurship and all the business modelling and all of that kind of stuff. So the day I graduated in 2013 was the day I started trading in my own business. And that's kind of like how it all worked out for me, really. Graduating from the University of St Andrews with a 2-1 was not something that was ever a thing. It was never a plan. Even at school, like I said, I failed my hires. Go to college was just like a stopgap so I could at least have a piece of paper to go get a job. And going to uni wasn't really a thing. So I feel really grateful that I did graduate from the University of St Andrews. No one has ever asked me about my degree since I've had it. So. Yeah,
that's kind of bizarre.
That's just the way it is.
Do you regret any of the decisions that you made in retrospect?
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this recently. If I was to go back, I learned a lot from being, so I worked from when I was 19 till I was 29, right? That's a really key window of opportunity when you're at that age. So we were talking about Gavin Bell before. He's 21 years old, right? Yeah. Started his own business, blah, blah, blah. That's what I should have done then. I didn't know that though. I didn't know any of that until later on, until I was maybe about 26, 27, and then I started to put things in place. So looking back on that whole time, I think the worst thing I could have done was go and get a job. And the best thing I could have done would be to go and explore the world and figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I think if I was to go back, or if someone else is thinking about what they want to do when they're like 20, 21, I think that's the time where you need to kind of not tie yourself down, not put yourself into a situation where you can't explore. And I think a big part for me was not really knowing what it was that I really wanted to do or what I was good at. I never had the opportunity to explore that because I had a full-time job. And I put everything into my job. I worked really, really hard. I've still got the same work ethic now as I had then, but I think I could have been doing so much more. I don't know what that would have been, but I could have been doing so much more at that time. And I think I kind of gave that up to do what most people think you should do, which is get the job and get the paycheck. Exactly. I don't regret it because I learned a lot from it. Massive grinding, working in a big organisation, communications, the ability to, there's lots of like soft skills in there. Leadership, having a team. I had like 100 people working for me at the time. Being able to do all of that kind of stuff is huge. But looking back, being 34 years old now, and looking back and thinking, what skills could I have picked up to make me a better entrepreneur or a business person now? I think that I would much rather have done that.
Yeah, but I suppose it's interesting because in saying that, the opportunities that are available to a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old now are vastly different to those back in 2001. So you might not necessarily have had the same level of being able to do blogging and all this stuff. It's so much more prevalent in today's culture.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's that. Like that's another reason why I'm saying it now as well, is because there is an abundance of opportunity right now. You can literally do anything you want. You don't have to be tied down to any one thing right now. I think that if you're at that age now, this is the time for adventure and discovery. And you can do it. you're not going to starve to death. You're always going to have a roof over your head somewhere. Someone will look after you if you choose to go and do whatever it is that you want to do.
And the interesting thing, it will just be glaring for you when you hear people doing this. You'll just see opportunity to share a story and to create a business out of it as well, won't you? Quite a lot of the time, the social media platform and
absolutely,
and
yeah.
stuff,
I mean, you can showcase your whole journey now. Yeah, absolutely. That's the opportunity we have. It's there for the taking for everyone. A lot of people look at marketing, social media, and content, all that kind of stuff, and they see the negatives of it all. You know, how exposed you can be and how vulnerable you can be and all the rest of it, but it's just a huge opportunity.
Yeah. Excellent. Good intro, Chris. I had about 5 or 6 questions written down. You answered all of them in one. So
Sorry about that.
Yeah, made my job easier. So, Content Marketing Academy then, this was a business that you founded in 2013. Why content marketing and why did you decide to do an academy?
Yeah, so there's a kind of wider story there. The business was actually called Learning Every Day to start with, at the very start. It's still the same business now. We changed the name last year. So kind of like long story short, there's a story in here or a lesson anyway for everyone, I think, in that the company started off as a general marketing company. I was interested in marketing. I was like, well, I can help other businesses to be better at marketing, so I'll go out there and I'll try and do that. And learning every day, well, to learn something new every day is like a success principle. So I felt like the business name was safe and that it could be anything. It just so happened to be that I was doing marketing. And then, you know, as time really quickly went on, I mean, I'm talking June 2013, about 6 months or 7 months later, I started to really get a proper understanding of what content marketing was. And that's the thing I'd been doing since 2010 without really realizing it. And started to listen to podcasts by the likes of Marcus Sheridan and Mark Schaefer, and there's so many there, and just started to get a real clearer view of what the future looks like in marketing, in the marketing space. And I think when it came to it, really, it's something I've been doing since I was 19 years old, is teaching and training people. Did it at work. I did it when I started my business. The first thing I really thought about doing was workshops, you know, so it kind of felt natural for me to do a conference or do some sort of bigger event. And this was when the concept of the Content Marketing Academy came up. And I thought, this is what we want, this is what I want to do. I want to create this event that teaches business owners how to be better at this, whatever this is, this new thing. It can't be, I think originally my idea was to do like a bloggers summit, have bloggers come together. But I knew that there was a bigger picture there. It's not just about blogging. This is videos, it's podcasting, it's infographics, it's all the content coming together. So it's had to be much bigger than that. So the first event that we did was September 2014. It started, I think we had 40 people there. It was based in Fife. I think we sold 26 tickets or something like that. So it's basically a workshop, right? And it started off, and it was kind of like trying to paint this picture. We couldn't afford any international speakers. In fact, we couldn't really afford any speakers. So I kind of got people that I knew to come along. Had Marcus Sheridan and John Lee Dumas I asked them if they would record some videos for me, and we used them as the intros and that sort of thing, just to kind of like, it was still exciting. It was still video, but it was still exciting to have these people involved.
Yeah, and so how did you approach them, and how did you get them to sort of buy into it?
Yeah, so this is, I get asked this question all the time. And you're the same, I mean, you're the same for your interviews, right? You just kind of ask them. That's it. There isn't really a secret to it, unfortunately. And I was just literally having this conversation with Gavin Bell the other day. It's like, how did you get in the Huffington Post? And it's like, I just asked. I just asked if I could do it, and they said yes. So, and it's the same thing with these guys. Usually these guys that you're asking for help from or are looking for get it and they want to help. And that's the truth, I think. I've only ever been refused like a podcast interview by one person, and that's just the way it is sometimes. But like everybody else is totally game for helping you out and want to be part of your story, as long as you're taking it seriously as well. So the conference was like a big thing for us, because it started. What happened between September 2014 and September 2015 was really interesting, right? We started to build like almost like a community around this other brand, the Content Marketing Academy, not Learning Every Day. And I was like, this is interesting. The Facebook group was growing. It grew from like 60 or 70 people to over 1,000 over in that year. It's like 2,000 now. That's another story for another day, perhaps. But that grew, and I was like, well, why are people growing, connecting with this Content Marketing Academy and not with Learning Every Day? And the fact is, Learning Every Day has nothing to do, really, with marketing. In fact, it doesn't really matter what the name is, but people were just connecting with this event or this experience or this philosophy or this culture around what it was we were trying to create. So eventually, I felt like I was actually starting to make an impact with businesses in a real way, like in a bigger way, not just one-to-one consultancy, but in this more philosophical way. Like there's something that we all believe. I know that sounds really sort of like, faith-like, but that's what it was. Everyone sort of had this set of the same sort of understanding, and we all believed in the same things. We still have that now. That's a big part of our culture within the Content Marketing Academy now, is what we all believe to be true about marketing and business, and that's really, really key. And it's a certain type of people. They're all really nice people, and they understand each other. So that happened, and I was like, this is interesting. We booked our first international speaker for the Content Marketing Academy 2015, which was Marcus Sheridan. We ran a speaker-led event that year at the Cosla in Edinburgh. We moved it from Fife to Edinburgh, big shift for us. And we changed the business name that year, just the end of last year as well. New website, new brand, new name, new story, new everything. And we embraced the Content Marketing Academy, or CMA, or TCMA, or whatever you want to call it. Because I wanted to put our heart on our sleeve a little bit there as well. I wanted to make sure everybody knew what we were all about. And if someone thinks of content marketing, they're going to think of me, they're going to think of the business. That's the key thing. So that's all happened. I'm almost certain the brand will change. I think the name will stay, but will probably change and it'll evolve. And we've moved really fast. That's 3 years. We went from learning every day, general marketing company, started events, started figuring out. I did loads and loads of events, not just the Content Marketing Academy, but we did lots of evening events as well. Whole philosophy was to try and get in front of more and more people. So I was working early mornings, late nights, trying to just do as much as we could to make an impact. And eventually just started to get traction. Like I said, changing the name and changing the story is a massive part of this. People realising that they were all in, that they could trust their brand, and it all the pieces fit together. So October 2015, so just last year, October 2015, changed the name of the business. And then the next conference was a big deal for us. That was just in June. It was a 2-day conference. We had 3 international speakers there, and 4 keynote speakers. We had 14 speakers altogether. It was in the Hub in Edinburgh, so if you know that venue, that's like one of the most impressive venues in Edinburgh, right on the Royal Mile. So we went all in on that again. The conference got more people, we got more revenue from it. It also got more expensive to run as well. And we started to command more attention, basically. And the growth between 2015 and 2016 was interesting. It never grew in numbers, but I think we grew in the quality of the people that we got at the conferences each year, year on year. So the 2016 was a much better event than the one in 2015. Different type of people.
Is that you mean attendees as opposed to
delegates?
Speakers?
Guests. Our guests were just a different set of people. And I think the activity that the social activity and the content and all the audience building that we were doing between 2014 and 2016 was a really important part of that. We just built and we build and we build and we build and we build, and we're giving all this content away, and people just trust us more and more. And something interesting, so it was a real hard slog for that 3 years. The trigger point was this conference for sure, no doubt about it. Off the back of the conference this year, we sold 100 tickets for next year. So it's half our capacity gone already. We only had 120 there this year. So we sold almost the same amount of tickets in 1 month for our conference next year. And that's the traction we were looking for, the trust. The people that have never been to the conference before are now buying tickets. And the reason is because we didn't turn up once and then go away. We turned up once, we turned up twice, we turned up 3 times. And we showcased it all. We did all the photos, we did the video, giving, not really making a huge amount of money out of this. We're breaking even on the conferences, we're making money in other places as well. To kind of fund this, rob Peter to pay Paul, basically, to make this work, to make this bigger. Because I know it can be bigger. And
how big do you want to take this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're going to see how that goes. Really,
just
to be honest.
year by year, you want
so
to keep.
Next year, I want 200 people at the conference. I think we can do that since we've already half sold out. I think we can sell the other 100 over the next year, hopefully before Christmas. And I think we go to 200 next. The danger is you grow too fast and you lose that, whatever that special culture thing is within the. I think it's really important especially for our conference. There's a community there that all the speakers comment on when they come over. We had the speakers that we had from America this year that speak all over the world said there's something different about your event. There's a definite feeling of community there. I don't want to get impatient with that. That's something that needs to build and grow. So the danger is we go from 120 to 300 and we lose something. I think I need to take the step into having a sold out event first. Know what that feels like and understand that. The danger is you skip a learning step, you know, and you go into a place where you've missed a whole gap, you've missed a gap basically. So so it's been a really interesting journey.
It's a good disciplined approach though, because sorry to interrupt, but when people see, look, we've almost sold the same amount of tickets after 1 month of that past event, we can, let's go for 500, 600.
That's right.
And the greed, not greed, but sometimes just that over-ambition takes over, doesn't it, and forgetting about all the things that are making it a real solid event. So
absolutely, it's massively about the audience and the trust that they have for you, and the fact that you're going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. There's definitely the learning part of it, absolutely. And I think you've got to be patient. Like, I think that's one of the skills that most businesses don't have, is the patience. Like, I have got an abundance of patience. Sometimes I'll be in my office hitting my head off the wall. Like, how can I make this go faster? Why is it not growing faster? And you've almost got to have like this pure belief that what you're doing is the right thing. Nobody else believes you. You've got to believe in yourself that you're doing the right thing. And I've had people that I trust that are the closest to me tell me that that they certainly couldn't do what I'm doing. The risks that you take, the way the things that you're trying to do, the belief that you have in what you're trying to achieve, they can't see it. They can't see it like you see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so you can't even articulate it sometimes. They're like, I don't think you're doing the right thing. I think you're really putting too much pressure on yourself. You're taking too much risk. You're spending too much money. You're, all of that kind of stuff. And then at the end of it, they're like, oh, right, I didn't realize that it could actually work. Like, I had a conversation today with someone close to me as well, and he's like, God, you were right about this thing. This is probably going to be the making of your business. And it's like, well, I didn't know that it was going to be. I believed that it could work, but I didn't know for sure. Like, if you don't believe it's going to work, then there's no point in even getting started. People say something like, I kind of knew it wasn't going to work. And it's like, well, it's not going to work if you think it's not going to work. You've got to believe that it's going to work for it to work. You can't at the end say, I didn't think it would work, because that, if you were thinking like that in the beginning, then it was never going to work anyway.
Exactly.
So you've got to believe, you've got to have faith in yourself that it's going to work for you. It's where it all starts.
That's a true example of just truly following your passion there, though, isn't it? And just living and breathing it and putting everything into it, and you just completely commit to it.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
and then hopefully you'll reap the benefits from it.
Well, you will reap the benefits from it.
A little bit of intelligence put in there as well.
Yeah, I think you have to be smart. Like, there's a couple of big mistakes that we've made, and I'm happy to talk about them. But I think when you talk about passion, a lot of people say that like, passion's overrated, right? And I don't know how. I believe in you have to have passion for what you do. It shows. When you talk about it, people start, like, they're encapsulated by, like, how you speak about your thing. It's almost like, if you're not passionate, like, nobody likes to hang around negative people, right? The bitching people and the moaners and the whiners. Nobody likes to hang around people like that. They like to hang about people that get excited about stuff, and they like what they do, and they're massively passionate about it. Not that they're like going to talk people to death about it, but they just like to be around people that are excited about what they do for whatever it is. So I think passion, a lot of people say it's overrated. I think it's underrated in some cases, because I think passion is the thing that will push you to the extremes. It will be the thing that you stay up till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning to do. It'll make you read all the books. It'll make you listen to the podcast. It'll make you travel the length and breadth of the world to go meet people and get to the conferences and do all the things that other people are not prepared to do. And it's the thing that will get you past the bad days. And it's the thing that will get you past the barriers. Like, for example, just creating content is a great example of that, right? There's so many barriers along the way to getting your piece of content out there, to getting your message out there. And a lot of people will fall over at the first one, and they'll stop because they're not passionate enough. They'll probably fail at the first few hurdles because they can't get past it. It's too hard. It's too difficult. I'm going to do something different. And I think that passion is so those two things. Passion will push you to the extremes that you need to go to. You'll learn better, faster. You'll do more. You'll work harder. You'll be better because of it. And yeah, you have to sacrifice a lot of things in there along the way. It starts with the belief and the passion. You've got to be smart. You've got to do something, I think, that you love doing, that you're good at as well. And you've got to make sure it makes money. Like most people, like entrepreneurs, like the definition of an entrepreneur. I think you've got to make sure it makes something, it makes a difference to the world, and it makes a profit in some way for other benefits. I mean, even charities and non-profit organisations have to make something in order to grow, in order to make sure they can impact the world in a bigger and better way. So I think that's the key. Create value from something, an idea, and make sure you can live from it.
Yeah. So staying on the topic of passion then, what's kind of scraping back the surface? What's behind your passion? What's the thing that gets you up in the morning? What's the thing that keeps you going?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this earlier. It's a tough one, right? Because there's two different reasons, or two or three different reasons. One is a basic work ethic. You get up, you make your bed, you get dressed, you turn up, you show up, you do the work you said you were going to do. That's one basic thing that, there's a lot of people that can't even do that, right? Yeah. You need to believe that you're here to do some work. I think that's
instilled into you from a parent or a sibling or anything.
I don't know if it's a parent thing. I went to work quite early. Remember, I don't know. I went to college and I went straight into a job, and the job's you clock in, you clock out. I worked in hospitality, so and I did hospitality from when I was 15. So you are working long hours. If you don't turn up, you're letting your team down. It's all about all of that kind of stuff. I think it was instilled in me from a very young age. I don't know if I picked it up from a parent but all my parents worked. So yeah, it was in the family, and you've got to turn up. You have to turn up. You don't get paid if you don't turn up. One thing, and the more you turn up, the more you learn, the better you get. So I think you do. I think there's a sort of basic work ethic. So that's one thing, definitely. The drive, the passion. There's days where you don't want to get up and go to work. You're in the wrong job, definitely. If that's the case, you've got to love what you do. And there's days, but there have been days where, just because you own your own business doesn't mean you get to like everything that you do. It doesn't give you that right at all. There's things you have to do that you don't like. But it's the passion that gets you past those things as well, right? To do those things. So I think that the passion's key, the work ethic's key, and your why, absolutely. So two different whys for me. One is that I have an audience there that I have committed to, that I want to serve. That I've got especially now with the membership part of our organisation, there's a whole bunch of people there that I pay some amount of money to be there every month, and it's not even about the money. It's they've got an expectation. They want to learn, they want to develop, and they've entrusted, they've given me, I've positioned myself basically to serve them. I said I would. So I had to turn up and do that, right? So there's an audience I have to serve. Same as you guys here. Someone's expecting you somewhere to turn up with a new piece of content or whatever it might be. So I'm there to be a leader, a teacher, whatever, right? So there's that. That's the business kind of why. I've built that for myself. Another why comes back to my brother. The family. Colin never had the opportunities that I've got, and we talked about opportunity earlier. I think that's absolutely there's just so much opportunity. Be there to accept. You don't get opportunities. Don't come just knocking on your door. You have to kind of turn up a lot in different places. Doing different things, like coming here, for example, or whatever. How did I end up here in this seat? It could have been a completely different path, right? So you've got to kind of turn up a lot and just believe that the opportunities will come to you if you are putting yourself out there as well. So Colin never had those. He was 23 when he died, and I think that's a big part of it too. So there's not a day that goes past where I don't think about that, and I try to think about it in a positive way rather than a negative way. And I think that's important too. So that's my personal why, my drive. I have a son now who's born on Christmas Day. He's 7 months old, so I think that I want to show him that there's principles to live by as well. So I want to do the right things. We don't always get it right. You do make mistakes along the way, but hopefully that someone like Spencer, who's only 7 months old, is going to be able to learn from the mistakes that I've made as well. So all of those things wrapped up in there, I think are absolutely key for everything. But you have to turn up. You have to show up. It starts there. Whether it's discipline at first or habit or because you just love what you do. I think when you're first starting a business, especially, you have to there is a discipline element to it. You don't know what's going to come of this. You don't know if it's going to. You just don't know. You have to try a lot of different things, and that means setting your alarm for 5-6 o'clock in the morning, getting in your car, driving to networking events, putting your last 20 quid in a diesel into your car to get to the next things. You know what I mean? You'd have to do all of these things. You're living on the edge for a long time usually, just to accept opportunities for when they might come to you. So yeah.
Very interesting, Chris. Very interesting.
Already.
Excellent. Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. So I'd like to talk a little bit about content marketing specifically, because this is a really interesting one, and I was saying this to you
I'm
earlier.
surprised you want to talk about this.
So I fully understand the meaning of the words content and marketing.
Okay.
Somehow when they're
Do you though?
yeah, I'm fairly sure I do. There's something about them kind of sitting together that I just find so sort of nebulous.
Sure.
So if you could give us a rundown as to what it actually is.
Love to.
And
Yeah. So this is one of my favourite topics. Surprisingly enough, named my business after it. So like we had a bit of a pre-chat about this, so I'll kind of I'll go on an angle on that. I think the key thing is that content and marketing are two separate things. There's content and there's marketing, and a lot of people think that content marketing is marketing your content, but that's not what it is at all, right? So the best way I think to start explaining what content marketing is to say what it is and what it isn't, right? Okay. So we take traditional marketing, so what we know to be marketing and sales right now, or what we're experiencing every day, and then do what content, and then sort of explain what content marketing is on that side of things. And then I'll take you through a cycle of that and just explain a little bit more about what it is. It's unfortunate though that it's called content marketing, because it creates a bit of confusion, and I think it's pretty much widely misunderstood in most businesses and most people. And there's people out there that are doing it and they don't even know they're doing it, and that's fine. I don't even want them to know about content marketing. Just continue doing what you're doing. So, for all intents and purposes, I think this is content marketing, what we're doing right now. Okay. So everyone that's watching right now, you're experiencing what we would call content marketing. So let me explain. I guess the key thing is that if you take traditional advertising, right, or traditional marketing, it's typically interruption marketing, right? So it's the ads that pop up on your screen when you're watching something, the pop-up that comes on your website, infuriating, the ads on Facebook, radio ads, TV ads, newspaper ads, anything that interrupts your experience, doesn't add value to your experience, right? It's a push message, typically wrapped around a product or some sort of call to action, right? It's not trying to teach you, it's not trying to help you, right? So that's interruption marketing. We're past that, by the way. We're way past that. Okay. The unfortunate thing is people will still continue to do that because it will work for a certain degree. If they spend £1,000, they know they can make whatever, and they'll continue to do it. But we're not building businesses that way. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to look at something called non-interruption marketing, right? It's the exact opposite of that. Instead of you pushing your message out to people, you're there when people are looking for you, right? So you create a piece of content, you create information that helps people, that teaches people, that answers a question, solves a problem, and the whole interesting part about it is they're looking for you, and then they find you, then they read your content, watch your video, listen to your podcast, they're educated, they're entertained, their questions been answered in full, you've helped them live a better life, and they now trust you. They found you, not the other way around, right? So they're in control, or they seem to be in control. Obviously someone has to create the piece of content that's going to be found, so they seek to find you. So it's the exact opposite of what we're used to, right? So, and the funny thing about that is someone will seek to find you, and they will spend an hour watching your video, or 15 minutes reading your blog article, or an hour on your website. They're still consuming your marketing, except it's done in a completely different way. So it's almost madness to think that someone might spend 15 minutes reading your marketing, but that's what they're doing. So that's one great example.
So is that kind of like passive versus active, I suppose?
Yeah, it's almost like it's push versus pull. Right? So you're pulling them, attracting. I don't know what you want to call it. Call it content marketing for the sake of argument, right? So that's one. I guess the other one is the difference between selling and helping. I think that's a key one. So it's massively, like for anyone watching, it's massively about sales. It's massively about business growth, but it's about getting customers that want to do business with you, right? So they're self-selecting you as the person that they want to do business with. It's like anything. Like for example, if you were to, I don't know, say your TV blew up last night and you wanted to buy a new TV, right? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to Google, right? Yeah, and you're going to Google and you type away and you're going to compare features, prices. You're going to compare all the benefits of different things, sizes, and all that, and you're going to look at reviews. Right, and then you might buy it online, you might buy it in the shop. Either way, you're doing all your research online before you even think about where you're going to buy it from, right? And you might buy it online. Even if you buy it from a shop, you're going to walk into the shop. That's the TV I want. The sales guy is just, if he can process the card transaction, that'd be really helpful. right? He doesn't need to know anything about TVs. You probably know more than he does about it, right? And that's what's happening. That's consumer behaviour's changed massively. We don't want to be sold to, we want to be helped. We want to make an educated buying decision. So those businesses that are trying to sell all the time are missing the point. You've got to help people. They might not buy from you, and that's the risk you take. But if you provide content that's going to help people to make an educated buying decision, they will find you online, they will read your content, and you have to have the belief or the hope that maybe they'll buy from you at some point down the line. But that's way down the line. They're not at that stage yet. They're not sitting at home. They don't go home at night, put their wallet on the table and open the laptop and go, right, someone sell to me. It's not like that, right? We're not doing that anymore. So it's called the zero moment of truth, right? This is like 70% of the buying decision is made online before someone ever contacts your business for the first time, right? Before they contact your business for the first time. So if you're not creating content that helps people, that educates people in that time when they're doing that research, then they're not going to find you because they ain't looking for you. They aren't saying sell me a TV. They're saying like, what is the difference between, or comparing prices, or they're doing loads of stuff in there, loads of research in there to make an educated buying decision. Right? That's the key. And if you're in that space and you're educating people and you're helping people, there's a couple of things. One is they'll find you and hopefully build trust with you and a relationship with you. That awareness will lead to trust and they'll want to buy from you, right? That's hopefully what will happen. It takes time though to build trust. It takes a long time to build trust sometimes as well. You can't measure it. You don't know how long it's going to take. All you know is that as many exposures as you can and building that relationship. So it's not going to be one blog article. It's not going to be one video. It's going to be multiple things over a period of time. And it all has to be the same philosophy, helping. Help more than anybody else in your industry. And that's how you're going to build the trust.
So how do you, if you are, say if someone's watching this and they're going, right, I've got a small business and I need to be putting content out there. Obviously, when you're running a business, you're busy and some people are out there delivering as well as running the business. How much effort, time, relentlessness do they put into putting out content? I mean, is it a weekly thing they have to do? Is it a daily thing?
Got it.
Where do we go?
So how much time should you spend on marketing is the question. Right, okay. That I can come back to in a second, definitely, because it's a key question. It comes up all the time. And I'd love to answer it. Quite excited about answering it. So, but let's talk about content marketing just quickly.
Right.
So it's the difference between selling and helping, right? It's the difference between non-interruption and interruption marketing, right? Those two things are kind of different. One other element I think is really key, or two more I think. One is that marketing is typically campaign driven. We've got a new product and service, let's tell everybody. And then they die down and they go quiet and they've got a new product or service and it's up and down, it's up and down. Whereas content marketing's like more consistent than that. It's like a consistent, production of content around helping, educating, entertaining, right? So you're there all the time, you're turning up a lot, not just when you've got products to sell. But it's almost like you want to be able to communicate with people without selling your product. It's almost like you need to forget that you've got a product to sell and you're actually going out there to help. What questions do they have? What problems do they have? How can I be more helpful than anybody else? How can I make a bigger impact, right? That's the key that most people forget. Businesses think they're doing content marketing, but they're really just talking about their products and services. They're not going to that next level, which is how can I be of service to you, right? So campaigns versus more consistent. And the other one I like to talk about, because we always come back to ROI, right? Return on investment, and people are thinking about where they're going to get money from this thing. And the reality is that you have an asset and an expense, right? When it comes to marketing, you usually have paid advertising, so pay-per-click, Facebook ads, it could be anything. Newspaper ads, radio advertising, all cost money, right? And what happens when you stop spending money on advertising?
Profit goes down, I would think. Yeah,
the phone stops ringing. You don't own any of that. You've used other people's audience. So basically when you buy advertising, you're buying their audience. You're buying the attention of their audience for a period of time, a very short period of time, usually. You don't own any of it. So that's an expense. Regardless of how it performs, you might make loads and loads of money, but as soon as you stop spending money, the whole thing stops. Over here, you've got an asset. An asset is something that increases in value over time, something that you own, right? Which is content, right? You create great content, evergreen content that you can get organic traffic to your website. You can entertain, you can help, and you can educate people using that content. You can do it today, you can use it tomorrow, you can use it next week, just like your videos. Like we were talking about my podcast earlier. You listened to a podcast, a Mike McGrail podcast, that was recorded in August last year. right? That's on the internet, by the way, and you can find that today. And it can be shared today. You could share it with your friends. It's there now. Mike owns that property. That's his content now. He's created an evergreen piece of content there. You just never know where it's going to lead to, right? When people are going to type in the right thing into Google, they're going to discover that piece of content and they're going to take some action because you've helped them, right? So that's content marketing. So there's 4 things there, basically. And I think it's key to recognize, that content marketing isn't a blog, it's not a podcast or a video, right? Because all those things could also be sales mediums. You can also say the wrong thing there. Content marketing is about the right type of communication. So it's about communication, it's about leadership. I think it's about philosophy. So it's more of a culture within an organization rather than a program or a campaign. So I think it's important
really
that
interesting
definition
there.
Yeah, so when you think about content marketing and you think about marketing content, it's not that. And this is why I'm saying it's unfortunate that content marketing is called content marketing, because it's really just effective communication done well, right? And it's like everything when it comes back to marketing, you put yourself in your audience's shoes and you communicate at their level with content that they will understand and they will get help and value from. And you do that, and you do it today, and you do it tomorrow, and you do it next week, and you do it for the next 100 years, right? That's how you do it. And there's a couple of great examples of this. One of my favourite examples is Pete Matthew. He's a financial planner based in Penzance. He runs a small wealth management company. His clients are high wealth people, right? Not me, for example, not yet. And he started a video series in 2010, I believe it was, about 6 years ago, right? It was called Meaningful Money TV, right? It was not his wealth management company, it was his side hustle. It's a really good example, I think. And he just said to himself, like, I've got all this knowledge, these skills and this experience, I can help normal people get better with money. I'm going to do a video every week, or 2 videos a week, and I'm going to do it on my flip cam, not like all of these flip cams. He had one flip cam, and he did it outside in Penzance, right? The wind, the rain, everything. And he did that for a couple of years, 300 videos or so. And then he went into podcasting. He's done that for 3. He's got like 150 episodes of his podcast as well. And he's done that over a period of time. He's delivered every single week without fail, turned up consistently, not to sell people in wealth management, but to educate people about money. And there's people that write to him and say they've never spent a penny with him, by the way. He's changed their life. They're living the life that they've always wanted to live because of him. Never spent a penny. That's what content marketing is really all about, right? Is that much bigger picture about how you can positively impact people's lives and not care about the fact that they haven't spent any money with you. That's what Pete Matthews done. His podcast has been downloaded over 500,000 times. It's got one of the best financial podcasts in iTunes at the moment. It has had for a long, long time. He's massively respected in the field. He lives in Penzance. He runs a very small company, and he spends about 10 hours a week on his content. Right? So that's honestly one of hundreds of examples. And Pete isn't even a client of ours. He's just someone that I respect a lot. He's in one of our masterminds, and he has this philosophy where he wants to give as much as he can to the world. It's like a legacy, almost. He didn't know he was doing content marketing, and that's just what we call it now. But I hope that gives you a better picture of what.
It sure does,
It's much bigger than a lot of people would probably give it credit for, I think. It's much more about the way your mindset, the way you think, rather. So a lot of people, good marketing is much more about what's going on up here, rather than the size of your wallet, basically.
Do you find that, again, especially the small business owners that maybe come into your academy, do you find it's very hard for them to look at that longer term, bigger picture, because they need a sale almost, and they need to make some money quite quickly? It's hard for them to look at such a...
It's funny. It's a funny situation to be in, right? I know where you are, I know what you're saying, but they kind of all go hand in hand with each other, right? So coming back to you, like it's encapsulated with your original question, which was about time and things like that as well. So one, if you don't have time to do marketing, you're not charging enough, right? You need to make sure you've got time and you're making time for marketing. It has to be a priority. There's a couple of reasons why. The second thing is to realize that, one, you're not charging enough. Second reason is that marketing is the only thing that will differentiate you in the marketplace. Doesn't matter what product you've got. You have the best product in the market. If you can't tell people effectively about it, or you can't get you communicate properly about it, nobody's going to care. It's not going to matter, right? And you know, and I know, we all know, especially in 2016, that you can get a similar product, a similar quality, a similar price from anywhere in the world, really. And a lot of the information, especially the type of business that I'm in, which is about education and marketing and teaching, and you can get a lot of what you need just by searching Google. So why would you pay me any money?
I was literally about to ask exactly that.
So this is it, right? But that's what happens. People buy from people, and they always have, that they know, like, and trust, okay? In 2016, that means about being on the internet and being there when people are looking for you and building up that trust. If you're not, like we talked about the 0 moment of truth, and we talked about all those things to do with content marketing, if you're not doing any of this stuff, you are dead in 5 years, easy. Your business, I mean, and there's Mark Schaefer talked about this at our conference recently, says, what is the ROI of being bankrupt? And I'm like, hello, wake up call, right? So, and this is a lot of big businesses are not doing this stuff. The small businesses are the ones with the opportunity right now, because they've got more time, they're more flexible right now as well, and they don't need as much. They can build on this, and they can get this opportunity. So I literally just did a video on this yesterday for the community on time and try to figure out why. It comes back to all the stuff I talked about before, is understand, like when someone says to me, I don't have the time to write a blog article or do a podcast or do a video, all that says to me is I don't get it and I don't value it. It's not a priority for me, and therefore I'm not going to do it. But essentially it's the adult equivalent of the dog ate my homework. That's what it is. It's like an excuse, and they'll bury their head in their sand. And we call it ostrich marketing because that's what it is. They put their head in the sand and they think it's going to go away, but what they don't realise is that marketing is the fastest changing landscape in business today. And if you're not learning right now, no one's an expert in this stuff, by the way. Even the experts aren't experts. They're still learning. They're still, they may be at the cutting edge, but they're still, what's going on? It's changing so quickly, right? And this isn't about getting overwhelmed. This is about at least being willing to learn, right, and understand how this stuff is impacting your business. If you're not creating content right now, you don't exist to people. They cannot find you when they're looking for you. That is what is happening right now. So one is understanding just how important this is. So the time question is, how much time should I be spending on it? As much damn time as you can. Right now, you stay up till 2 in the morning.
With the whole explanation.
Exactly. You spend as much time as you can. Even someone said in the community yesterday was, I'm enjoying this, and this is the other thing, it's got to be fun, right? You're supposed to enjoy your business, you're supposed to enjoy what you're doing. And someone said, she's really great, I'm really enjoying this, and I think I'm spending too much time on it. And I was like, no, you're not spending too much time. You might feel like you are, as long as it isn't sacrificing your client work right now, do as much as you absolutely can right now, because that's going to be a buffer, not only a buffer of content, but it's like building that foundation that you need. And you're, in some ways, if you do that for 2-3 years and someone else comes into your space, you've scaled something that's unscalable now. How could someone compete against 3 years worth of content, 5 years worth of content, 10 years worth of content, right? And especially in 10 years time, it's going to be really hard. It's going to get harder and harder. Now's the time for action in this space. If you're not doing this stuff now, you're basically, you're putting nails in your coffin, basically. Yep.
Interesting. Great stuff. Some real nuggets. It's excellent.
We better invite another couple of guests to come in tonight after Chris's interview then.
No, it's good. I mean, this is it. I mean, it's serious stuff, but I think people need to, it's the one big thing that we're up against every day. The big barrier is the whole ostrich marketing kind of thing, is getting people to just be willing to learn. Like, complacency is the biggest killer in business. People just not willing to change. It's like, I don't even want to work with people. I don't even want to work with people like that. And then when people come into our community, they're not coming in like that, in that philosophy. They're coming in, I want to learn, I want to be the best. I believe I'm amazing at what I do, and I believe that more people need to know about this and need to be able to find me. They come in with a completely different mindset, totally, like I was speaking about this earlier, the community feeling that we have around what we do is entirely different than any business network that you've probably ever been part of. It's just full of bright minds and people that are just of a different caliber of people. They are successful, and they will continue to be successful because of the way they think and the way that they see the world.
So there seems to be this real emphasis on tailoring your content to a very specific audience, down to the, my target person is a 25-year-old male called Jim who enjoys X, Y, and Z. But why can they not, or why is it less advantageous to simply appeal to the everyman, so that you're then potentially attracting a far wider audience?
Yeah. So I think the whole analogy, I think, around that, or the real chat that goes on, is it was buyer personas and audience personas, and really try to figure out who you're talking to, and having, so Seth Godin talks about this a lot, that having the smallest possible audience, or an audience of one, right? Now, the danger is that you try to appeal to everyone and you actually appeal to no one. That's a reality. It does actually happen like that. And I think that when we look at the businesses that we're working with just now, in fact, I'll give you a really good example of that. My own business. We went from being general marketing to content marketing to being a membership organisation and a conference, getting more and more specific. It creates clarity for people. They know what you do, they know what you offer, they know how you can help them. Much more clearer than if you're just like, we do marketing, or we'll help you with your marketing. It has to be much more specific and much more clear than that. So the more clear you can be, the better understanding you have of who you're trying to speak to, the more you can articulate, the better you can articulate that to them, the quicker they'll trust you, the quicker they'll spend money with you. Obviously, I mean, this is what we're really talking about, is you can get them to spend money faster with you as well. So I think there's a massive case for the niche, is understanding who that small group of people are that you're trying to communicate with. If you're in a small business, you don't need everybody. You don't. You might be in a really small business where you need 40 customers a year. That's not everybody. That's 40 customers, right? So you can think to yourself, we only need 40 customers. Why are we trying to appeal to everybody? Let's try and figure out who our best type of customers are. That's what content marketing is all about. It's about creating better customers. And as you create, the thing is, there's a big part of this journey, I think, in business as well, is that creating content and writing blogs and doing the podcasts and the videos and things like that, it's all part of figuring all that out. So you start off doing general stuff. And you think, actually, I'm not really interested in that stuff anymore. I'm more interested in this. And you start to refine that message down and down and down. But if I hadn't done all of that general stuff and tried to share my ideas, and I would never have got to this stuff in the end anyway, right? So it's always about refining. You're always trying to chop stuff off. Even the conversation I was having today in our board meeting was, let's cut away some stuff. We're doing this stuff here. We don't need to be doing that anymore. It's taking up time. It's taking up energy. It's getting confusing. Let's get rid of that. Well, that's a lot of money. Get rid of it anyway, right? Let's just focus on what we want to be known for going forward. And over time, you just start to get better at refining what that is. It's part of the journey. I think you really need to accept, especially in smaller businesses, accept that's the journey you're on. As you ain't going to figure all of that out unless you start doing all the stuff that we're talking about, really, to be honest. So I think there's a massive argument for it. I don't think you want to be appealing to everybody. You really want to understand who your ideal clients are, your ideal audience is, who you're trying to speak to, who you're trying to change, what value they're going to get from whatever it is that you do, whatever you share, whatever content you're creating, what the outcome's going to be for them. Listening is the number one skill in communication anyway. We're talking about marketing, but marketing is just communication. Listening to their problems, listening to what they say, how they say it. Not just listening to the questions, but understanding the underlying problems that they're having. Really, the best organizations in the world know their customers better than anybody else. And they can emotionally connect with their customers better than anyone else as well. That's the key. That's where the magic is. And it's just getting so close to that and then giving them an excuse to get closer to you over time as well and understanding them better. I mean, we've got 62 paying members in our organisation just now, right? And that'll probably go up by 10 every month and more as time goes on. That is me, now that I've been able to do that, is that I'm getting better at identifying who's supposed to be there, right? And understanding who's supposed to be in, getting clarity on the types of people that will get benefit from being in this organisation and in this membership. It just takes time to figure that out sometimes, I think, as well. So it's part of the journey. It's all part of the journey. But I think it's refining, it is getting niche. You cannot communicate with everybody. Even if you have a marketing team, you can't have everybody going off in different directions. It's let's concentrate our efforts on a particular segment of people or group of people is key.
Excellent.
That'd be the short answer.
Yeah. So I'll be putting you on the spot here, but are there any organisations that you care to mention that are either particularly good or particularly bad at content marketing?
I've got loads of great examples. Bad examples. You know what? We'll go for good examples, right? Because that's more positive.
It's less contentious, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to come over looking like a prick, basically. So we'll go for good examples, right? So there's a couple of great examples. Like one, let's look at some sort of famous examples and some non-famous. I'll give you one already. Pete Matthew, great example. Yep. Meaningfulmoney.tv, check that out. Great stuff. If you're really wanting to know anything about finance, check Pete out, definitely. Let's look at some. Joe Wicks, if you've heard of Joe Wicks, the Lean in 15 guy, right? It's a really great example of content marketing. There's a couple of great stories he's shared before in the past where he's become a total celebrity status now, right? A lot of people hate him, a lot of people love him, but it comes back to your question, understanding who your audience are, right? He went from doing his 15-second videos, 15-minute meals in 15 seconds on Instagram 3 years ago, started to build an audience, didn't think it was going anywhere. One day he didn't post his recipe. Somebody wrote in, where's the recipe today? He realised that people actually gave a shit basically about his content, and he was like, I can't not do this anymore, I need to turn up every day. So he started turning up every day. Then he went from being a PT, personal trainer, to being an internet business, an internet sensation with his meal plan, and he serves audiences all over the world now. He's got hundreds and thousands of customers because no personal trainer in the world would ever be able to do that. So he changed his business, he had the big PRs and he got his 2 books out there, and it's just went massive in a very short space of time. And there was a period of time before he was a celebrity where he was practicing the principles of content marketing, which was turning up consistently with valued content that people would want, right? People can learn from. He wasn't selling it, he was just sharing his knowledge and his skills and his expertise. Very similar to the story that we shared with Pete, right? But he became Joe's going to be a celebrity. He already is in our small world, but he'll be massive, right? Because he's got the right people behind him now, and his PR team and all the rest of it, and he's got masses of staff and all the rest of it. So he's taken it to like an entirely different level, right, than most of us would. So Joe Wicks is a great example. A couple of non-sort of famous examples. Talk about an architect, Alan Corfield Architects, based in Dalgety Bay in Fife. They went from being having a website that was all about them. We do this, and you see it all the time. We've got a combined experience of 120 years. We've been here since blah, 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 blah. Us, we're so amazing. Nobody gives a shit, basically, right? What his niche, he niched down from, instead of doing extensions and house builds and blah, 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 they're now the self-build experts. So if you are thinking about building your own home, these guys are for you. That's it. They will do extensions and stuff like that, but that's not their thing. They niched right down into self-build experts. Now, this goes back about a year or 18 months where Alan, similar to you guys, asking questions like, what's this and when can we do that? This was going back to last January. He met a guy called Marcus Sheridan, which I'll talk to you about in a second because he's a more famous example. And he just started to think, well, actually our content should really be about helping our audience, people that want to build homes. They could make potentially, we've seen it, they've made tons of mistakes. They've got tons of questions, and basically, how can I be more helpful than everyone else, right? So what they did was they turned things around. Last August, brand new website, way more focused on the self-builder, answers all their questions. They've got a big ebook that's like 50 pages long that helps them it answers all their questions, basically. And Alan shared a couple of examples of this where he was on holiday for 10 days. Someone phoned up, it was a lead. Alan wasn't in, they couldn't speak to him, so they sent him the ebook. Alan comes back, thinks the lead will have gone cold, gone to another architect, probably. Nope, read the ebook, it answered all their questions. The sales call that Alan would normally have would last like 90 minutes. It lasted 7 minutes because all his questions had been answered. He even wanted to spend more money with them because Alan had taken the time and the effort to create content that built trust, that answered all their questions and did things entirely opposite way from what other companies had done, right? This is a medium-sized architects company based in Fife, building stuff all over the UK. Now, just to take that story just a little bit further, just so we see the bigger picture here, Alan is now writing a column for Home Building and Renovating magazine, which is his industry magazine. The biggest, I think it's the best-selling one in the country. And he also keynotes at seminars at their events all through the UK. Big ones in London, Birmingham, Glasgow, right? So he's now seen as a thought leader or an expert in his field, right? How many architects are in the UK? I don't even know. Tens of thousands probably, yeah. But he's been seen to just rise above that.
Yeah.
From sharing information and knowledge that other architects also know, by the way. They do know this,
that's the thing, isn't
but
it?
they don't want to give it away because they expect to be paid for it. But they will not. People will not pay you money until they know they can trust you. So how do you build trust online? Right, Alan's a great example. Another good example is Gillis and Mackay in Errol, who build the best sheds in the world, basically, or summer houses, cabins, garages, exactly the same thing, right? Great company story. They're brilliant at what they do. They've been around for like 28, 29 years. And this content marketing philosophy that we've talked about just unlocked the way that they communicate with their customers, started answering questions, problems, being helpful, showing people how to look after their Gillis and Mackay product building, you know? And Cara, the managing director there, she would say, she was here right now, we build the best fucking sheds in the world. That would be the language that she would use, because they do, and she loves it. She loves what they do, and they've got a great story, like I said. But the content marketing thing was the way in which they were communicating wasn't just quite there. And she's got a business degree, just like me. And she came on our masterclass last May, for 6 months, and learned more about marketing in 6 months than she did in 4 years, right? And I can share that experience for being at uni as well. So that's not what we're getting taught. It's not the right. So again, another great example. She's grown quarter on quarter by tens of thousands of pounds in sales because of the way that she's communicating in a entirely different way. And this whole philosophy comes from a guy that we've learned from called Marcus Sheridan. He was a struggling pool guy back in 2008, and he embraced this whole philosophy of they ask, we answer. So he's the kind of like the most famous example I can think of that's taken this to the extreme, which he completely turned his business around, right? And he just sort of said to himself, well, people need to trust us. We're in a time now where consumer behaviour is changing, and he started to write content, answering questions on his blog, doing video, and commanded that space effectively. They've got the most visited pool site in the world, and they can only build pools in 2 states in America. Okay. You know what I mean? And so my point, coming back to my earlier point, is that he's helping people all over the world to choose a pool for their home. Yeah. But he can really only make money from the people that are in that specific area. So there's so many examples. Yeah. So many great examples that it's so difficult, I think, to ignore this as an actual way to build a business. It's a way of building a business. So we talk about traditional advertising and paid advertising. You can do those things. You can do all of those things if you want to, but there's just this other thing, this other way, this better way, I think, of building a business today, and it's through all the principles and the philosophies that we've talked about tonight.
Would you use both?
Yes. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. There's a time and a place for all, I think. It all kind of comes together. I think if you've been doing content for a while, for example, and you're getting real results from it, and your website seems to be performing, as soon as you add paid traffic to that, you could see a massive transformation. Try and add paid traffic to a website that hasn't got great content, hasn't got great conversion rate, then you're spending a lot of money over here and you ain't getting any of it back over here. So I think it's a kind of like a chicken and egg situation, as a lot of people will see it, but content comes first. I truly believe that content is the way that you should be. It should be your number one way for going to market, because it's organic as well. You're commanding the organic traffic there, and that's key.
It does seem so counterintuitive, though, that you're essentially giving away all your advice and your tips for free. I mean, your website's in some ways a good example of that, because it's so transparent and you go into details. I mean, I'm sitting here, I've got the statistics of exactly what you paid to set up the conferences and stuff. Yeah. Are you never concerned that people are just essentially going to poach your ideas or anything?
Yes, people steal my ideas all the time. Yeah. Guess where I got mine from? So how many original ideas are there, really? Do you know what I mean? So it's I think there's two things. One is that we all steal ideas from other people. We add it to our own ideas, we morph it into something different. What's this based on? The show.
Yeah, London Real, yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that though. That's great. You're doing it your way, doing your example, and it's a completely different thing because you're doing it. It's totally fine to do that. And people will steal your ideas. The only way they'll steal them though is if you're willing to share them and allow them to be spread. But there's another factor that we're missing is that most people will not do it.
Yeah.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
They just won't do it.
Yeah.
They won't take the action. They haven't got the passion, the drive, the motivation. They're just lazy bastards basically, and they won't do it. It's a big thing. There are a lot of people are lazy and they just will not do it. So you could it's a good example. It comes up all the time. Is you're not worried about people stealing your ideas, stealing your content, or whatever it might be, or basically building a business around what you do. And the reality is that you could give, I could give you the best recipe for a cake and give you all the ingredients. It doesn't make you a great chef. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's still skills, there's still personality, there's still a lot of things going on in the background that people miss. Writing a blog, I could write a guide, and we're going to do this, a guide on how to run or facilitate a world-class workshop or a world-class conference or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. Hopefully some people will read it and take lots of great advice from it and go away and make their event better. Brilliant. I'd love it if they did that because that's needed. More of that stuff. Yeah. That'd be fantastic if someone does that. It comes back to the story with Pete Matthews. He's impacting people that have never spent a penny with him, but he's doing it for his industry. He's doing it because, especially the financial industry. I mean, how much trust erosion's going on there? Yeah. A lot. He's doing it for there's a bigger picture, way bigger picture of all that.
Based on that as well, is there not also this kind of thing where someone is taking your content and someone is relaying that message and it's just another person putting your message out there and kind of backing up that industry and pushing it up a little bit? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is why, think about the final product from this video today is a YouTube video. You want people to share that. You want people to embed it in their blogs. You want people to write about it. You want people to even transcribe it, put it on their blogs. Who cares? That's what it's there for. It's there for sharing. That's the power of the internet, is the share. The reach that you get through that organic, when someone shares some of your content, they're saying, I really like this, or it says something about me, or whatever. They want to give it to their audience. The more people that do that, the better. That's what content's there for. So when I look at, I curate a lot of content, and I do it in the right way, with acknowledgement to the people who originally created that content. That's the key thing. So yeah, I think it's absolute. That's what it's there for. It's there to be shared. So you've just got to, if you don't share your ideas, nobody's going to share it. So it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Excellent. So I was recently listening to your interview with Dan Norris.
Oh yeah.
And you talk about admiration for successful people, but not always taking what they say as gospel.
Yeah.
Which is really good advice. Having said that, who is the one authority figure within your niche that you look up to most and why?
Okay. No one person, I wouldn't say. So this is a tough one. I didn't know this question was going to come up, but it's funny you should mention it because I was kind of talking about this earlier about putting people on a pedestal.
Yes.
I have been guilty of that when I was younger, right? Yeah. And I realised it's the wrong thing to do. Jim Rohn would say, be a student, not a follower, right? So study, draw your own conclusions, don't follow people, basically. And I think that's a key, solid piece of advice. So it's kind of similar to what Dan and I were talking about. So when you're reading something, I could say Dan Norris is a key figure, definitely is. But you read his books and you draw your own conclusions, you decide what's for you and what's not. I could revisit that book in 2 years and take something completely, entirely different from it. But I think this is a really tough question. But it's got me thinking, which is good, even though it's late. We talked about Jim Rohn a lot, right? Jim Rohn's great. I listened to him less now than I did before, though, I have to admit. And I think that, without sounding too cheesy, is because I find inspiration from the people like our members. Like I talked about Cara and Alan and Pete and even Marcus and all of those people. I find inspiration in all of those and the things that they do, right? So they come to our events, they read our blogs, they take advice from all the content that we put in front of them, and they go away and they achieve their own things under their own motivation. I'm not there spurring them on every 5 seconds. They're away that's a really great idea. I'll think about it for a while and see what comes up. Next thing I know, they're away doing video or they're away doing whatever. And that's brilliant. They're thinking on their own 2 feet. They're taking the ideas that we're sharing with them and drawing their own conclusions. That's what we teach, and I think that's key. So I find that I look up to those people. I look up to the likes of Cara and Alan and those people that are doing stuff that's actually growing their business. I don't see it as me being the teacher and them being the students at all. In fact, it's totally the other way around, I think. So I look up to them. They probably don't even know that. I think that's. I was thinking about this actually on coming to the interview, because I kind of thought that we might talk about it. I definitely listen to less of the likes of Jim Rohn and all those inspirational speakers, less now than I ever have. And I think one of the major factors is I can actually have a conversation with Alan. I can't have a conversation with Jim Rohn. I can't have a conversation with Tim Robbins or Tony Robbins, or whoever, right? So I think there's something to be said for that. Sharing your ideas with actual people is key. So I'm inspired by all these types of people. But I do look up to likes of Marr and look at what they're doing and try to think about how they are building successful businesses, and lots of other people too. There's I think inspiration from a lot of different points. I would say movies, music. Like I play guitar and music that inspires me. I think that a lot of that stuff too. TV shows, anything that's creative. So I think I've got more eclectic as time's gone on, I think. Instead of having like 2 or 3 sources, comes back to my original point, which was, Chris, you're starting to sound a little bit like this person, and you've got their quotes all over your wall, and you're just turning into a version of them. I'm like, right, let's get rid of this, and then start to just really broaden out a little bit and get inspiration from other sources. I think that's important. That's been important for me.
Super. Seems to be as well, the quite a strong message I'm getting from you, and we've had it with other guests who are good leaders and good business people as well. It's really kind of push yourself, stay positive, get yourself into a good state so you can perform every day, and then you're picking up inspiration from all your interactions because you're positive, you're in a good state, you're forward thinking, so you're picking up even from people who on the outside that could look like you're giving them a hand up kind of thing, but you're picking up inspiration and information from these people all the time.
So most people that you meet are good people, definitely, and they're doing good things. Whether they look miserable or seem miserable or snarky or whatever, they're good people. And they've always got good things to say and share, and there's always something to learn from every experience and every conversation you have with people. So I totally agree with that. I think it does start, regardless of what you're doing in your life. You could have a job, you could not have a job, you could run your own business, whatever. It starts with that sort of mindset and approach. That's what opens up the doors, really. Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to get some of your thoughts on social media platforms.
Okay.
And really how, because there's now such a wide selection, how people decide which ones they should focus on, which ones they shouldn't. And also, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about which ones you're active on and why you like them.
Yep, it's a good question. So, a lot of people would probably say something, go where your audience is. The reality is that you need to go and build an audience. So a lot of people would say that go where your audience is, right? You don't have an audience if you're just starting. That's the reality. So you can't go and get your audience, because your audience, you have to create and build your audience, right? So there's a step way even before that. It's like strengths. Where's your strengths, right? Are you quite comfortable getting in front of the camera? Do you like doing video? Do you want to get better at all that kind of stuff? Great. And the reality is, if you wind the clock back, that statement would have been finished there, but we're in 2016 now. If you can't do those things, you're going to have to find a way, because that's where it's going. We're going into all this live broadcasting and video. So I would say play with your strengths, play towards your strengths, absolutely. Be willing to learn every platform. They're starting to become very similar though across the board, right? So if you're able to pick up one and communicate with the philosophies that we've talked about, that's why some people are, some people can just pick up a platform and run with it as soon as it's released, like Instagram stories. It's like, how are people even on here already? It's because they know inherently how to communicate on social. They just know how to do it. It's the principles we talked about. Platforms are secondary to what's going on up here every single time. So that's how they're able to do that. So play to your strengths, be willing to learn. I think it depends on the type of business you're in as well, to a certain degree. For example, if you are, like we talked about Cara, there's another woman called Vicky, Beach Huts Vicky we call She has a second name, Vicky Gunn, and she's massively into Instagram because all her beach huts are really, there's lots of photography going on there and video and storytelling, and that makes a lot of sense for her to be on Instagram, right? And doing the whole live stories and Snapchat, and that makes a huge amount of sense. It's all about families and memories and all that kind of stuff. And she's building an audience there, no doubt. Her audience are there actually, and her peers are also there as well, which is really important. Her competition are there, essentially. So I think I think we're now in a day and age where like social media's been around for, and it's where it is now for like 10 years, like Facebook's been around for 10, 12 years, whatever it is. But in a business sense, I think there's so many case studies there that you can just go to who's done it well already and kind of look at what that platform might be that's there for you. The reality is that you can't do it all. You try to do it all and you probably fail miserably, especially in the start when you haven't got much resource. So you do have to kind of play to your strengths. So repurposing content's a big way to do that. So if you create a video, is try and create an image from that. It's a quote image that could go onto Instagram and so on and so forth. Try and get more from your one single piece of content. You might even be able to cut a 60-second snippet or a 45-second snippet from Instagram, do some behind the scenes Instagram stories while you're here, all of that kind of stuff. You could do it like that and be a bit more resourceful about what you have to tell the story. So there's not really a right and wrong answer to that question, like which platform should I choose. If you look wider than that though, like look at all the platforms that have had investment over the last 10 years, right? You can't, don't all these, I don't know if you get them as well, but I get emails from people inviting me to I don't even know what they're called, I just delete them now. These other platforms. I'm like, why are you even interested in that? There's obvious what's happening. There's Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, right? These are the platforms that matter.
Okay.
I might have missed one, right? But that's where the investment is. That's where the people are. Don't even bother looking at what platform 8, 9, and 10 are. What's the point? There's no need. So I think those are the platforms where people are. You've got over 1 billion users on Facebook. Instagram has been bought by Facebook for $1 billion or whatever it was after 500 days in business. Facebook also bought WhatsApp for $90 billion. Look at what's happening. It's pretty obvious what's happening. You need to get on this stuff. It's starting to come into its own now. The internet and the way it's been has been around for 20 odd years now. Social media 10. It's starting to take shape. So I don't think there's a right and wrong answer about which platform you should go, but you should definitely play to your strengths. We'd be willing to learn, and you're going to have to embrace video, basically, the way thing things are going in a big way. And be willing to be a bit vulnerable, try different things out, especially with the whole raw, authentic storytelling on Instagram and Snapchat. You have to be willing to just let people see behind the scenes and what you're doing, and be a bit vulnerable, be a bit raw. Don't worry about the fact that you've got your pajamas on, stuff like that. People want to see something like that. I think the brands and the businesses that are willing to just open up a little bit more are probably going to be the ones that will be more successful with social media now. I mean, what is social media anyway? We call it social media. It's communication again, back to the basics, I think it's just a platform. I mean, it's the internet. It's how we use the internet today. So if you want to be involved in this stuff, you want to have a business, you want to communicate in the right way with the right people, then you're going to have to get on there. I don't know if that answers the question as such. It's just difficult without context, obviously, what type of business it is, what kind of resources you have. So, I mean, if you're sitting here right now and trying to select any platform, I would definitely be like, what do I like? Where is my potential audience, right? Potential audience meaning that you're going to have to go there and work hard to actually earn the attention of your audience anyway, which means turning up consistently with great, helpful, valuable content and stuff that people actually give a shit about. And something that you're willing to do, that you're willing to put effort into, something you're probably going to enjoy as well, I think, something you're going to have fun with, and maybe even learn at the same time. So I think that's how I would select a platform for me right now.
That's great. I love how your answers always have kind of solid advice and actionable stuff as well. It's really good.
Yeah, I think I mean, again, it's back to the way I think is well, someone's watching this video. What do you need to do right now? And there's a lot of fluffy stuff out there, and it's about helping. You want to help people, as much as you can. I'm on every social media platform, just to finish the question, or try to be. Not a great piece of advice, but it takes time to build all that up. Over time, we put systems in place. Right now, we're moving from one system to another that's going to help us get more content out there. I'm the kind of face of the business, so I'm the one that's on Instagram and Snapchat. Then we've got Facebook, we've got our blogs, we've got our video, we've got our podcast. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, big time.
So it's like, but it's the key part of our business. We have to practice what we preach at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't say to you that content marketing works if I can't show that that's
You
how I get my
tweet once
customers.
a week.
Yeah, that's how I get my customers. So I can show that it actually does work. So it's key. It's absolutely key for us to showcase that, how it's done. So we need to be involved in these platforms, and I need to be where my audience are too, and that's exactly where they are. So yeah, we're on every platform pretty much, I think, in one way, shape or form.
Right. So here's a question for you. What's the one question people aren't asking you that they should be?
That question.
What's the one question that people aren't asking me that they should be? That's a tough one, that.
Yeah.
Because I get asked tons of questions.
Yeah.
The most ridiculous ones as well sometimes. Oh, God, that's really good. I think that... That's a good question. God, that's really hard. I think it comes... It's probably more generalisation, actually. I'm probably copping out a wee bit on this one. A lot of people don't ask the questions that they should ask. They don't ask good questions, right? So they ask kind of like ridiculous questions that don't really get the answer that they're looking for. You ask the good question, this is a part of it, big part of it. We're guys, right? And we're not particularly good at being vulnerable, right? So you ask the question, which in the situation that we're in right now makes a lot of sense, which is, Chris, I kind of understand the two words content marketing together, but you know what? I'm a bit confused. About what it all means. Could you explain it for me, right? A lot of people don't do that, right? They're like, I know what it is, yeah, I've got this. They're not vulnerable enough. They're not willing to ask for help. I think that's a wider part of this whole thing. So when I find that people to particularly ask stupid questions, so I'd like people to kind of stop doing that. That'd be awesome. That'd be really good if people just thought a little bit more about the questions they're asking. I think they would get to where they're going a lot faster. And I think if everyone could be just a little bit more vulnerable, that would be good too, and be willing to sort of say, what I don't know, what I need to know more about this thing. Could you please help me? Most people don't do that. It's quite sad, actually, to be honest. And guys are the worst. I have to say it. I find that the guys are the worst at that. They don't ask for help enough. And I think being more vulnerable will help people to get to where they're going a lot faster. Yep.
That's a really good answer, actually. Well handled, because that's not a nice question, but I felt obligated to
You're supposed to test me.
Yeah, it's true.
We're here for an easy time.
Here's a topic that we've spoken about at length, the perceived growth of entrepreneurship. And the something that you've written about actually is, I suppose, the almost snobbery of entrepreneurs versus employees.
Oh I forgot about that. Yeah.
So what do you think about this? It seems as though there is this kind of movement, and everyone thinks it's trendy and cool to be an entrepreneur. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think it's completely overvalued or over-egged, basically. I don't even really understand. Like, I can't even spell it properly. It's like it's one of those words that kind of like it means so many different things to different people, right? It's definitely over-egged, right? So, for example. So for example, you've got people like online talking about entrepreneurship, trying really hard to inspire people. Like they're on their video and they're like, you gotta be grinding, you gotta be crushing it and all the rest of it. And it's like, okay, just calm down, right? Calm down a little bit, I'm Scottish, all right? There's a lot of people out there doing that, right? A side note, one of the comments I get a lot of the time is that I'm not American, I'm Scottish, and I'm not in your face all the time about entrepreneurship and crushing it and like working till you die type of thing. And that's a good compliment to get, I think, right? But this is happening in the UK a lot now as well, and in Europe. I think that there's a big problem there with entrepreneurship, and there's a big responsibility, I think, for entrepreneurs, the ones that we look up to recognise what's actually happening in entrepreneurship today, which is what Josh talks about: suicide, depression, not feeling valuable, all that stuff. It's a massive problem, right? And they need to recognise that. Number one point, probably the most important point. And I think that it's definitely over-egged. Now, look at the people who are actually successful in business. They don't give a shit if you call them a business owner, an entrepreneur, whatever. They've got their head down, they're focused on the prize, and they're working hard. That's it. They don't care if you know their story. They don't want to be famous. They want to be successful at the thing that they're doing. Now, you take someone like me, and I have thought about this a lot. I learn in public, right? So I will do something in my business that's successful or is a mistake, and I'll learn from it, and at some point I'll write an article about it. I'm learning in my space. I'm learning in public. There's a lot of people out there that are running multi-million pound businesses that have made massive success that we've never even heard of. They're just not there. They're not entrepreneurs. They're successful business people, right? So I think that's key. Another thing is that a lot of people, it's an underestimation of what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur, right? So they're not patient enough, and they're not willing to put in enough effort, and they think it happens overnight. It doesn't. None of those things exist, right? Nothing ever happened. Nothing good ever happened overnight. You want to lose weight? You've got to go to the gym every day. You've got to go to the gym every day. That's it, forever. You've got to be in that habit of that lifestyle forever. Like it's not something you just do for a period of time or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like everything that anyone that's successful at anything in their life put a lot of time. They put a lot of effort into it. And like anybody, like I can't even think of any example where it doesn't work. I want to be a good guitarist. I played guitar for 15 years. I'm still shit at guitar. If I wanted to be really good at guitar, I'd play it 7 hours a day, like Kirk Hammett or all these other guys that I look up to in that space, right? They've played guitar for 40 years, every single day, for 10 hours a day, right? They've well and truly put their 10,000 hours in, right? It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think that a lot of people are this microwave society, you know, you pop it in the microwave, you put it on for a minute and ping, it's done type of thing. You know, this instant gratification issue. And I'm not trying to just say this because I truly believe that this is a problem. That the people think they're sort of like, they're entitled to it. I feel like they're entitled to be successful when nobody gives a shit about you, really. They don't.
Giving yourself the title without fully embodying it and actually kind of just earning your stripes, and then someone else saying, "There's an entrepreneur," isn't it? It's like, okay, I'm starting off. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so
I'm
someone
CEO,
else. Yeah,
I've not even done anything yet.
So someone else will tell you if you're an entrepreneur. I guess is the key thing. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things I've struggled with. Like, what am I? What do I do? What is it? And I've went out and like, you know, people say like they're a coach or a consultant or whatever. I'm like, what? I'm not a coach. I don't even like the term coaching. I don't think that's what I am. Am I a consultant? Maybe I consult. But you know, a lot of people in my space just see me as a teacher, a business teacher, someone that teaches and helps. That's it. And I'm quite happy with that title. It means a lot to me, and I think that is what I do. I teach as much as I can. So yeah, I mean the whole entrepreneur versus employee thing, where people think, and you see this all over the internet, infuriates me. Is that any entrepreneur that's successful cannot do it without other people around them, typically employees, right? So you see something that disregards people that are in a job because they think that being an entrepreneur is better than people. There's more people in jobs than there are entrepreneurs. And jobs are what make the world go round, right? For a couple of different reasons. One is you need to employ people to make your business a success, to grow it, right? You pay them money, then what happens? They build stuff, right, that other people buy. And the reason that they get paid money, which allows them to buy other stuff in the economy as well. So the world wouldn't exist without employees, without jobs. The world wouldn't exist without jobs, right? And then you get someone saying, this is an entrepreneur who has all of these qualities, and this is someone in a job who's like completely demotivated, doesn't have passion in their life. It's like some of the best people that have done anything in life were the number 2 or the number 3 in the company, or some employee that was thinking entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial, whatever you want to call it, basically had a fucking head on their shoulders and saw an opportunity and said, hey guys, I think we should be doing this because our customer says they want it, and then they make a shitload of money from it, right? They make a success of themselves because of it. some of us we're just all wired a little bit differently, but I don't think it's not bad to be in a job, it's not bad to be an entrepreneur, and it's not the other way around either. It's just whatever you decide that you want to do. The key thing is that you're happy doing it. That's you. You create your own happiness, not other people. So I hate all that stuff about entrepreneur versus employee or whatever. It's like a non-argument. Rant over.
Yeah.
For
that
now.
was good. That was a rant. It really was, and it was highly inspirational.
Thing is, I was an employee for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I had people work for me, like managers and supervisors, and they all had lives. They've got kids at home. They get paid, and it's like this is a bad thing. It's honestly, it's like without having people in jobs, we've got nothing. Like as soon as it just infuriates me.
Okay.
Slow down, Chris.
We'll stop it there. So I've got one other question, and then we'll maybe ask you a few questions around success and kind of wrap things up there.
Cool.
So the question that I'm interested in, and you've kind of written about this as well, is the current education system. How do you think it is serving the people that are coming through it in order to deal with society today?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I think it's really good to kind of bring it up. I don't think there's much. So again, this is it's a bit of a negative attitude actually, but it's going to be difficult for people to change. I think a lot of people talk about it. It's like trying to change the NHS, right? A lot of people are like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. It's like, good luck with that. Because you've got the whole political system to deal with, and nobody's dealing with that. So I think we can talk about it. I think it's unfortunate that we possibly can't make much change there. But I think, what do I think about this? What are my thoughts? See, this is the key thing, is you listen to all this stuff and people blah, blah, what are my thoughts about this? My thoughts are that it is massively important to be educated, right? To have some sort of intelligence, to be able to read, to be able to write, to be able to understand, to be able to communicate, to be able to make friends, to have all the soft skills that you learn from being at primary school and university even, right? I don't regret not having my degree. I learned a lot about myself at university. Even people being 10 years younger than me, I learned a lot about deadlines and writing and reading and interacting in the class and what it felt like to be, and all that stuff, right? My degree, and I think that's what a degree is. It's a life. There's a lot of life lessons in there. So I think having an education is really, really important. I'm not sure if anyone would really disagree with that, actually. I hope not. I mean, I know a lot of people dropped out of university, and there's a lot of people that think, what does it take to make an entrepreneur and all the rest of it, and a lot of people dropped out in university and they didn't go back, and they regretted even the small time that they actually spent at university. I'm not entirely sure that's great advice, I think you need to, if you don't know what to do, and you're 17 years old and you don't know what to do, you're just like every other 17-year-old on the planet probably, I don't know what to do. And you go to university and maybe you do the wrong degree. How do you even know? Like, you need to look back at that and go, part of that was about me figuring out what I wanted to do. I think there's a couple of things that are massively wrong about the educational system is the money, the debt that students get into. I think that's wrong. I think that the education system is going to get a big fright in the next 5 to 10 years, where people no longer want to attend lectures in school because they can learn online.
Exactly.
Like, I have learned so much more in the personal development space, reading the books, listening to the thought leaders, going to business conferences. It's kind of touched on it a little bit already, where someone said they learn more in marketing in our classes than they did. In fact, I've had people leave professional organisations to be part of ours because they're learning more with us. Right. I mean, it's like there's a big shift in how we're learning, right? And the thing is, it's the same thing all the time anyway. If you're willing to learn, then you'll learn. If you're unwilling to learn, you're not going to learn at school either. Even if someone's spoon-feeding you the information, it's going in, it's going out, it's not getting retained. So I think, I think as far as university is concerned, I think there's going to be a big shift in the business model there. And I think a lot of universities just turned into money-making machines, basically, especially international students and things like that, and there's a lot of ego involved in politics. I think we could lose all of that quite easily and get back to basics, which is how can we make the world a better place, making sure we're educating people for what they need, right, and the skills that they need every day. So like we talk about marketing, but when we teach marketing, we actually go right back to basics, to the skills that you need in order to be great at marketing. If we go back into education, we teach people the skills that they need to be great people and great learners, then surely that's all they'll ever need, right? That's the only skills they'll ever need, the soft skills to make friends, to communicate effectively with people, and to learn as they grow older and go through life. I think that those are key. I don't know, I think that it's hard to say because, well, it's good. In fact, I've got very recent experience actually being in an educational institution at 29 years old instead of 19, which is quite interesting. But I haven't been in a primary school since I was since I was 10 years old. You know, so it's hard to, and you listen to people actually sometimes and like, the educational system needs to change. And it's like, when was the last time you were in a school? You know, when was the last time you went to primary school? How do you know what the teacher training actually is? Because I know some teachers and they do a great job and they love what they do and they're trying different things. I know they are trying different things and different techniques all the time. They know better how a 5-year-old learns than I do, but I know that much. So it's trying to have a bit of faith in the system, but I think the system is broken in some ways, especially the political system, which doesn't help things, which massively slows things down. And what you end up having is people graduating from uni with education that's 10, 20, 30 years old, and it's not for now. I think the business education needs an overhaul as well. I think it's a different set of skills. When I was at uni doing entrepreneurship, it was one of my favourite classes that I had. It was the one where I performed the best as well, and I learned a lot about everything I needed to do. But there was still a massive gap in there, really, about how to grow a business. And usually you're getting taught about how to work effectively in a corporation, like Accenture, or you know, to be a consultant in one of these big firms. And how many, you know, I just don't know how that sets you up. I don't know how that really sets you up for being great in a job, basically. And I saw that a lot of ignorance, basically, to be honest. And a lot of the lecturers you're learning from are researchers. They ain't never had a job. Surprise! It's just quite frightening, really. Isn't it? I'm sitting there, and everyone else is just like taking their notes, falling asleep, drinking a beer, whatever. I'm sitting there like, you've never had a job before. How, what are you supposed to teach me right now that is really going to help me? Like, really, you know, I'm learning all this research, but really, is it actually what's happening in the real world? I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of like my sort of mixed opinion. My mixed opinion being that, you know, I have got faith in the system. I think people do need to have an education. I don't see anything wrong with going to university to get an education. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think that it's a good place to figure out what you want to do with your life. It's a safe place to be as well. But I think if you graduate university and you still don't know what you want to do not get a job. The worst thing you could do is get tied up in a career for 10 years and lose your 20s. Go like on an adventure, or go on a discovery or something like that. Go figure out anything. Whatever. You know, I think that's the best thing you can do with that sort of time. Gavin Bell, I mean, is a really good example. I mean, he's tied himself into entrepreneurship effectively, but he's taken a lot of risk there. You know, there's not a lot of people who would do that. He's got nothing to lose. You know, he's got less to lose than perhaps someone who has a mortgage and a family and kids and all the rest of it, who can still do what they want to do. But in your 20s, early 20s, you've got really just a key opportunity there. You know, so it's such a high point in life, I think.
Excellent. Another great answer. Okay, how do you define success?
The S word. Oh, jeez. So, you know, it means so much again, like success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? So when someone looks at someone else and says, oh, they're successful, what does that even mean, right? It could mean that they've got lots of money, or they've got a nice car, you've got a nice shirt on, you've got an Apple Watch on, you must be successful, right? So I'm sitting over here with jeans trainers and like a Johnny Cupcakes t-shirt on. Like, am I successful? Who knows, right? Or I've got tattoos or whatever, got my ears pierced, whatever. It could, like, there's so many judgments made about success, right? My personal definition of success, and I've used this a lot, especially in presentations at universities actually as well, and in business, is success to me is creating an idea from nothing, like just creating something from nothing, like an idea, and creating value in the world, whatever that might be, right? So for me, right now in my business, I'm nowhere near where I want to go. I've got big ideas and big goals about what I want to achieve, right? Financial goals, business goals, life goals. But for me right now, where I am, I could say that because I know what my goals are going to be, I could quite easily say I'm not successful yet, or I've not made any success. That's not true. I've made a huge ton of mistakes, and I've had lots of successes along the way too. And even the mistakes are lessons. So like you could say that I've had a massive business education in the last 3 years. That's a success. Have I impacted people positively in that period of time? Yes, I have. Are people getting results from the things that we're doing? Yes, they are. Do they like what we do? Yes, they do. And then there's all the people that we fell out with along the way that don't like what we do, that didn't have a great experience, and we've learned from all of that so we can create better experiences next time. So the fact is, I am successful. I'm successful because I've created value for some people out there in the world. That's it. What else does it really need to be? For me, no more than that. Did I make $100,000 million? No, I didn't. Does that mean I'm unsuccessful? No, it doesn't. It's what does success mean to you? I think it's the key thing. I think the danger or the biggest problem we've all got as humans is we judge. We try to compare ourselves against other people. It's like so detrimental. Social media is bad for this as well. You'll see yourself sometimes. You're having a bad day. You go through social media, they're having a great day. How many people do you see having a bad day on social media? No one. No one has a bad day on social media. You only post the stuff you love. You're like, I'm having an amazing time on holiday. My kids are amazing. My family's amazing. My wife's amazing. I'm amazing. Everything's amazing. Life's amazing. And you're like, I'm having the worst day ever. I fucking hate you right now. The world, I'm just pissed off at the world. Right? Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's all this. It's like self-perpetuating like experience you have. It's killer, honestly. It just, and I find myself slipping into it sometimes. Like delete, like it's off Facebook, get off social media right now, and go help someone. That's my solution to feeling better about everything. Is to just go help, do a video, like put some content out there, phone someone up and ask them how they're doing, whatever. And I think that's the especially in business when it's a bit lonely, and you're running your own business and you're not whatever. You can be a little bit overwhelmed by all of that. It looks like people are doing really great. They're just having the same problems you are, the same struggles that you are. So defining success for yourself is probably fundamental, really, I think. Because you'll see this, like the people you've spoken to that have had careers, like Brad Burton, for example, he's had a lot of trials and tribulations along the way, and he could quite easily have said to him at some point, and probably did, and I've done it as well, is you just feel like you're not successful and you're not valued, but you are. Just even to like your mum or whatever, your family, whatever. I think like it's just the business at the end of the day. I think you need to look at success in a way that helps you to feel successful every day. Like what are you doing that's impacting the world in a positive way? That's good enough, I think. Make some money as well. That's also good because that means you can eat and buy pants and stuff, and funny looking t-shirts and things. But that's what really matters. It isn't about how much money you've got in the bank, really.
Yeah, that's becoming increasingly less important.
I think it's it is. But there's a lot of people out there. If you follow them, love to tell you how much money they've got. I don't like. I mean, I don't mind talking about money. Like you've seen some of my blog articles. I quite happily talk about money, but it's not about bragging about how much money there is. It's I just don't like that kind of mentality at all, actually. It's like, much more about experiences these days. I think you hear a lot of that these days, definitely. I think that's nicer.
Yeah, definitely. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Ever received? Shut up, Chris. Stop talking. There's so many. So many great pieces of advice. Tons. Where do you start with something like that? We've already kind of touched one of the best, I think, God, that's so hard. Poignant times, I think. Be a student, not a follower was a key one. I know we mentioned it today, and the reason I mentioned it today, because it was so key, I think, is that my dad said it to me. It's kind of like a Jim Rohn philosophy, I guess, but it was my dad that kind of really flagged it to me at a time when I didn't want to hear it, so I didn't listen. As you do, you're not ready for it, whatever, it's not the right time. And then after about 6 months or so, he was totally right. Be a student, not a follower, right? I need to be my own person. I need to come up with my own ideas or whatever, have my own quotes on the wall. That's not what you need to do. But you need to be, so that was key. That was a key point for me. Actually, it did change me when I stopped, like I said earlier, you were saying like, who's the people you look up to? And I was like, it's a massive array of people. that changed when I had like maybe just one and it went to many, and I felt like I was much more myself that way. I think so. That was a key piece of advice for me. It did change the way that I look at things. I'm trying to think of like another key piece of advice, something that we've not covered already. It's hard to say received. I mean, I read a lot, listen to a lot of things. I think one of the key, there's loads. One is that we've only got so much time, right, on the planet, right, generally speaking, right? So I'm 34 years old. I've only had really though 14 years worth of valuable time to add, right? So from my 20s when I started work, that's 14 years of value added sort of activity, if you will. So I'll get a job, provide some value, serve an audience, whatever. I started my own business. So I've still got technically probably another 66 years if I want to live to 100. I've still got tons of time left to do so much. Right, so let's break it down. How long does it take to do a business project? Right, so let's say I've done one for 3 years now. I think it's going to take at least another 2 to get to the point where I'm like, right, we're doing really well now. That's 5 years. So if I want to start another business in another 5 years, how many 5-year projects do I have with me, counting them all in one hand, right? So that kind of like, that was one of the pieces of advice that I got from a Tim Ferriss podcast with Kevin Kelly, right? It's something I've listened to it time and time again. And so much so I've got a death counter on my iPhone, right? It tells me how many days I've got left on the planet.
Way you
yeah,
don't.
no,
Seriously?
Seriously. It's there on my phone. I don't look at it every day, but there'll be a time when I flick down my notifications and it'll be there. I'll be like, you've got 17,837 days left on the planet, right? I'm like, okay, cool, that's all right, tons of time. But there'll be a day when that's 6,000, right? So that kind of like advice for me was just understanding how quickly time passes. Like a year passes really fast. Like really fast. And some people just seem to get so much done in a year. They write a couple of books. I can't even get started writing a book. Right? Do you know what I mean? They're doing so much. And I think like you need to just be really protective of your own time. Don't fuck about with the time. Don't give it to people that don't deserve it. Work with people that love what you do. And just make sure you're doing something that really matters to you, that really, really matters to you. Because it's all you've got. It's all the time you have. You're going to die one day. Make sure you've got like, it's a bit morbid, but it's the reality, right? So that's another piece of advice. And the other piece of advice I really like is, it's from the one thing, it's the one that really sticks out the most to me right now. There's probably tons, and I'll go away today driving my car home and I'll be like, shit, I should have said that. But the one thing I'm going to say is that I think it's about being the best at what you can be at, like mastering something, right? So it's a combination. This is from The One Thing, the book by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, which is one of my favourite books of the last couple of years. It's funny, my dad bought it for me. It sat on my shelf for ages, and then I ended up reading it at one point. I was like, this is amazing. And it's mastery is the combination of doing the best you can and doing the best it can be done. So you break that down. If someone says to you, I'm going to do the best I can, right? Immediately I'm like, that's not good enough, right? Because they're doing it the best you can, you're only operating in with what you know. The books you've read, the experiences you've had, the knowledge and skills that you have. You're only doing the best you can. However, if you approach something and you're thinking to yourself with the mentality of, I'm going to do the best that can be done, you immediately have to break through what you already think you know about something. And you have to learn something new, and you have to break through that barrier. So it comes back to what we've talked about this whole thing. It's like continuing to learn and develop all the time. And that's a great sort of piece of advice, I think, for anybody, if you're approaching a project or if you're trying to do something like this, is to really think to yourself, well, am I doing the best I can, or am I doing the best it can be done? And if you really want to master something, then you'll be on the latter, which is breaking through those barriers and willing to take some risk, willing to try something new, knowing that you don't know enough. This is one of the things actually I think is key to cover actually, is being humble about the fact that you do not know everything and you are willing to learn. There's a lot of people out there are quite arrogant about that and they don't need to learn, but they do. They need, in fact, they need to learn more than anybody because they've shut themselves off for so long. So I think humble in the fact that a lot of people know more than you do about something and willing to listen and learn and to be the best. And that's what we do with our community. It's massively about helping people not only to believe that they're the best, because they believe that already, it's helped them to really sort of get it out there and show people that they are the best at what they do. And I think that's what we're all working towards every day, is just being a better version of that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
fantastic. Okay, so if you could pick up the phone and make a phone call to the 20-year-old you, what would you say?
Oh God, I've never been asked this question before. And I would just say to my 20-year-old self right now, I'd say quit your job, dump your girlfriend, because she doesn't turn out to much anyway, and get the hell out of there right now.
Right.
I already decided to leave home by this time.
Uh-huh.
So I left home at 19. I already decided to up and go for a job that wasn't paying me very much money, only because my girlfriend at the time moved to study at the university at the time. Yeah, I would definitely say quit your job, leave, go travel the world, enjoy yourself, have great experiences, and realise that there's a world, a way bigger world outside of Fife. Go find it, go discover it, and have a great time.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. That's been we've had a good crack at that. That's been a truly fascinating interview. There's a lot of incredible nuggets of valuable information in there, as well as so much inspirational stuff. It's
really good fun going through it all.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much you learn in a fairly short space of time, to be honest. The 15 years or so, through college, through working and through business, you start to figure yourself out a little bit more every day, I guess. So yeah, it's
I think if you have that attitude that you have about self discovery and learning, developing every day, you're constantly assessing that, you're constantly looking at it. So every time we've asked you a question, you've been able to give so many examples and kind of share your thoughts and experiences of it, because you're constantly reviewing it, constantly looking for a bit of development. So
yeah, no, you're right.
Great.
I think there's a key lesson in everything that we've covered tonight, I think, and how I'm able to do all that. I think, as well as I haven't shut myself off with my own, and not shared my ideas and thoughts.
Yes.
I have done exactly that. And I've talked about all this stuff before at some point, right? I've not talked about it in the context of this at all. I know that you sent me some questions before we came in, but I don't even look at those. I'll look at them once and I'll be like, right, okay, fine. Come in confident, knowing that the questions you're going to ask me, all I'm going to do is give you the actual answer that's in my head right now. But the reason it's there is because I've either talked about it on somewhere before, on the podcast, or a video, or I've shared it somewhere, or I've shared it. And that's part of the discovery. I think that's a big part of the discovery.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're not doing anything like that, if you've not got like a podcast, for example, or even keep something simple like a journal, where you can write down your thoughts or ideas. Yeah. It's a really good practice is to do that. I don't keep a journal so much anymore, but I write blogs. And I do podcasts, and I come and I talk to you guys. It's the same sort of same outcome. You're starting to figure out, well, no, I don't really know much about that subject actually. Do I have the authority to comment on that, or how do I feel about this, and what are my ideas around that? And I'm sure if you were interviewed me in a year's time, that some of my philosophies might have changed around some of this stuff.
I hope we will be.
Well, I hope so too, because otherwise I'm not really, not really doing much, am I? So yeah, I think that's key.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for having me.
No problem at all, Chris. Thank you so much again for your honesty, your candour, your transparency. It's been fantastic.
It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Brilliant.
We'll have you back in a year.
I'll be back.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
We have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls. It's barricaded the world with hate. You stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost.